It's time for Matcha Talk. Assalamu
Assalamu
alaikum.
alaikum. Are y'all in your comfy spots? Because we are, and you can see
Yes.
that because
Mm-hmm.
we have started video. So, welcome to our video version of Matcha Talk. So, I am Summer.
And
This
I'm
is
Samia.
Samia.
Yes.
She's my older sister, and we just get together with a topic, something that happened, and then we just talk about it like sisters do. And sometimes we have a drink in our hand, sometimes, and then most of the time we just make sure to have a spiritual twist on it because that's who we are. Today, something has happened about something else that we are. You had a situation with a Bollywood movie.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to say that the podcast that we have as a video one is also available as the audio, obviously, but this is just like an addition of a video one. And so I just want to mention about what happened today, right? My husband is not Pakistani. He's Puerto Rican, so he's not at all familiar with the Desi culture, and we're Desi people, so we know a little bit more than before. And I always wanted to show him those classic Bollywood movies, like. Um, Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge one, like really like 20, 25
Classic.
year old movies.
Classic.
Yeah, we saw that one before. It was, I think, in the early years of our marriage. We don't really watch that many Indian movies. And anyways, I was like, I
Yo,
gotta
yo,
show
what about
him.
there
What?
was one that y'all watched with Shah Rukh Khan and the Devdas.
Devdas? Yeah, so
Yeah.
we've seen, I think, together now, I think we've seen this like two.
Yeah, y'all have
Yeah,
seen some.
yeah, just two. So this time is gonna be the third one. It's a classic movie as well, and there were some things that I noticed in there that I did not notice before because now I'm an
A
older,
conscious
more
consumer.
wise. Yes, exactly. And I was like, yeah, it was a really interesting experience. So I want to talk to you guys about that today.
All right, so let's just go ahead into it. Do we actually have today a common caffeine?
Yes. Wait a minute. We have a common caffeine. So for the video audience that you don't know, we pick a comment from our Instagram account and from any of the posts that we make about the previous episode or one episode for the week. Or actually, yeah, it doesn't really matter. Any comment that we'd like. And that just gives us a boost. That's what we call it, the common caffeine. It gives us a boost to keep going, to keep producing content, and then just get really excited about things. So this one actually was from
Exactly,
our
that's what gives us
episode.
our energy.
Yeah, and we all need that, especially these days. This one is from our podcast episode called Single and No Mingle, that we talked about that. And it was actually on a clip that was shared. And in that clip, it was you, Summer, and you were talking about how we cannot have cultural baggage into a relationship. Like we need to be able to, not only cultural baggage, but baggage in general, right? We want to be able to fix that. And so it was from an account, Instagrammer, Culture Mocktail, and they commented yes, yes, and yes. That's right. We got three. We got three yeses because I really felt that this was the topic that we discussed. It was so like people related to it so much, and I think it doesn't only work with our background; it can work with the non-Muslim background as well. So I really like that. So thank you, Culture Mocktail, for giving us the
Yes.
triple yes.
So hold on. So now
Yeah.
there are multiple ways that people can comment, right? So now they're going to be able to comment on
Yeah.
YouTube videos, and then you have some other things too.
Exactly. So YouTube videos, you guys can comment. On Instagram, you can comment, and we'll pick one of them for a common caffeine feature, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Let's talk
Okay,
about
so
that.
today, tell
Yeah.
me what
Let's
happened.
talk about the movie, man. So, okay, you've seen this. Do you remember how much of the movie did you remember?
Okay, a little.
Yeah,
I remember like general gist of it. I probably remember more than you did when you watched it because you have a horrible memory with movies.
I do.
But I think I remember the general gist. I
Yeah.
don't remember details.
Okay, so for those who are not familiar with this movie, this whole deal is that there is this family who happen to be very rich. It was like a castle. It was one of those castles that you show in Britain, in the
Like
so I
like
made it
K-drama Prince style,
like legit, like
yeah.
yeah, K drama prince style, really rich family. And the son is adopted. That shows up a little bit later, but he's accepted as his own. Like, he found out that he was adopted when he was 8 or something. And then, I did never mention the movie. The movie we're talking about is...
Hold on. Oh, why did you spoil it? I was actually gonna be like, tell the story.
That would have been fun.
We can just bleep it. We can bleep it. We'll bleep out what you just said. Go on.
All right. So the kid is 8 years old, and he finds out that he's adopted. But people are like, no, it's fine. You're still part of the family. Everything's all great. And then afterwards he grows up and whatever, and he's like, I want to be proud of you, Dad. And, you know, he loves his father, and he's like, I want to be just like you. And the dad is so proud of him. It's like a really proud moment. He's like, I've never disappointed my father. Look at my father. And he imitates him on a portrait. Like, it's a pretty big deal. And he has they have a biological son, and they're really good friends together, the brothers. And so what happens is that the main character, who's the adopted son, he ends up falling for a woman who is on a different town, and she's not wealthy, and she's also a Muslim. Yeah,
I don't remember that. Okay.
Yeah, and so they fall in love, whatever, and he tells his father. Father is like, yeah, no, and so there's like a huge dramatic moment, and he's like, I'm not okay with this, and he's like, I will do what you want, Dad, and but in the meantime, her father passes away, so he's like, all right, I'll take care of you. They get married, and they show up in the house, and the father's like, get out. And so they end up being in London. Long story short, the kid grows up, finds them, and then reconnects them together.
The kid, his brother.
Yeah, the little brother who becomes older, who changes significantly in 10 years. He goes over, and he brings them all together, and the family becomes united again. That is the movie, and it is Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gham. If you don't know, that was the movie.
All right.
And so we watched this.
I wonder how many of y'all actually got it from that crazy description. But it was, that's what the movie was. That's what the movie was
about. And so there are a few things that I noticed. And a lot of the times, it's really interesting because it's things that one culture values, the other culture does not at all. So the main premise here was that the parents did not agree to the daughter-in-law, right? They were like, or the dad in this case, the overbearing.
Because he's like, we don't know where you from, who are you, what's your history, and all. No,
they didn't. Right? There was no you involved. There was like, will she be able to do this? Will she be able to do this? And the answer implied was, no, she won't be able. And I'll tell you what that is too, because I never knew about this movie before. Okay. But the first part, though, when it comes to the cultural stuff, it's like Hamza this whole time was like, this is a non-issue. It was like, if my family did that, and I'll be like, who cares? And I was like, like, you can't really expect that from a cultural background. And the reason he said was like, look, because what they said was, or what the dad was saying was, it's not true. It's not based on facts.
Okay, hold on. You gotta remind me and everybody else. So what were the concerns? I don't remember, because I thought it was something like, we don't know your history, your background, and we rich, so like, who are you to come into our family?
Yeah, so understanding is that they knew her a little bit. I believe, not her, I don't know what it was. Somehow they knew each other's families. They were familiar with each other's families. And she lived in a very not wealthy part of town, and he was actually very, very wealthy stuff. And then so those were the two things, and they were like, will she be able to fulfill our cultural things? Will she be fit into this family? Will she live like blah 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 blah? And the answer implied was that no, she won't be able to do that.
So it was like a culture.
Yeah, difference. It was a culture, maybe like even
or like a lifestyle difference.
Caste different, lifestyle different. I mean, just basically, the only way you can have people who can be the same is if you live with them, and you don't marry siblings. You know what I mean? So it was just like why. And there was actually another character. Rani Mukherjee was a character, and she was the choice of the parents because she knew them. They were young and they were wealthy and they were all together. So they did have an alternative, which was not acceptable to him. Mm-hmm, yeah. Mm-hmm. So that was the whole.
And that's
thing.
Interesting, actually. That's an interesting one.
Yeah, and he was like, because
that was the whole thing.
No. Because
just like
he said
she doesn't know us.
Yeah, basically that. No, we don't think she knows us. We know her, and we're not a good match, so this can't happen. So this was all.
Oh, so we
Yeah.
Oh.
And Hamza was saying that, you know what, it's not even true, you know, because it's not like she's a serial killer, right? Like, she's not a horrible person. Like, you can make this work. But it was like not even an attempt to understand. It was really like, there was just nothing good about it.
Yeah.
So he was like, I would have no problem telling my family, well, y'all are wrong and I'm not okay with this. And if you don't want to talk to me, fine.
Right? Like, whatever.
Is this interesting?
But that's, okay. It is interesting, but I can get the cultural thing, and it's always been the most foolish thing, and I think we've talked about it a few times, but basically the idea that, oh, if it's someone you know, at least you know who they are and what they're like, right? Versus someone else entirely. And we're not talking about family, friends, we're talking about, like, family or, like, relatives. I mean, we have, like, huge, ridiculous families, so it's not, like, immediate family. But you know who they are, you know of their family because somehow down the lane they're related to you. And so it's like, okay, we know who they are, we know what they're like. It's okay. We would trust them over, or like there's been some sort of familial relationship basically between your family and their family for so long, generations, that you're like, okay, we will trust this person and that will be fine. But someone else... Like, we don't know you.
That's valid, but it's like, but I feel
that ain't valid at all.
No, it's valid. Like, if you want to,
you don't know. No. Just like what you said earlier, unless you live with them, you don't know. So
yeah, but even then, but what
they're all
the
strangers.
ridiculous part of this whole deal that to me is that they would know the family. Okay, fine, you know the family, and you know all the skeletons in the closet, and you're still okay with it. But the skeletons can be really, like, some really scary skeletons. Like, there's some legit skeletons that are like, yeah, but at least we know the evil that they can do. I just realized something, Summer.
What did you realize?
I'm wondering if we should talk about, like, just mention it briefly here, because it's a little bit political. All right, but I just realized it.
We can cut it out.
No, I mean, I'm fine. No, but the thing was, so when it comes to the Trump supporting, right? So I see there were some comments, and there were people who were talking about. We went to the previous election and this election with Hillary and now with Biden, and I saw some Muslims commenting this, and they said this, and now I'm like, oh my God, why? I understand why they said that, and they were like, oh, at least his evil we can see. We don't know the evil of Hillary or Biden. We don't know them because they can do anything under the table. But his evil that we can see, so we rather vote for that. And I'm like...
Because we know his kind of evil.
But, like, do we, though?
Wow.
Look.
No, for real, that's what
the families that we have, right? Like, we all have families in our family which are known for their situations, all right? Everyone has that. There's always one person or whatever. And...
The black sheep.
Yeah, so I... Not necessarily black sheep. Like, not black sheep. We're talking about... people who are misunderstood here, where this is families or people who have issues and they don't want to work on them. And so I don't know, I mean, even then like a person has an issue and they have really problematic human beings, toxic maybe even personalities, and then, you know, their toxicity like really expands sometimes. Like, you know, the worst of it in this situation, but another situation happens, and then you see, like, an even worse side. So there's no point where you can even be comfortable with an evil or a wrong or a negative, because you don't really know how bad it can really get.
But that's true for, like, everything. So that's just it's just a huge fallacy, like a completely invalid argument, because you just never know the depths of someone's evil. Like, you just never do. That's just,
so I'd rather be okay.
Like,
I'd rather be okay with the goodness and not knowing the depth of their goodness, rather than being like, oh yeah, I see all the evil there is. It's like, no, you don't see all the evil there is.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
And did you know that she was a Muslim in this movie? I didn't even recognize it. It was like, oh, Assalamu alaikum. And Hamza was like, Assalamu alaikum, what? And I was like, oh, yeah. This is Assalamu alaikum.
Every once in a while they do that.
Yeah, and
they like just mix up the Hindu and Muslim.
But hang on. Okay. They say Eid Mubarak to each other. Everything's great. So this isn't the beginning. This is the pre-marriage phase where he just saw her. The father just died. Like, all this point. She's Muslim. Everything's going good. And then later on they move forward, right? They move forward where he's grown older and he's in London. The lady's like praying to the statues. She's not only Hindu, she's like a very dedicated Hindu. And I was like, no one bats an eye. Like, I never saw this. So it was like, and then later on, she's obviously accepted, right? So I was like, wait a minute. That little dad in the beginning, was he like a bigot? Like a little bigoted thing? Oh, she's a Muslim. She can never really understand the customs and values. And so that's not going to work. And then she's like a complete Hindu, complete like 180. And then everything's fine.
I mean, that would make more sense to me other than we don't know her family lifestyle. Like, that makes more sense to me because there's like a huge religious difference.
Dude, but what was really weird to me, though, is that was never pointed out in the movie.
Yeah, it was like an undercurrent, maybe understood by the audience, but not supposed to be necessarily
we
like
talked
in your
about
face.
it in...
Because it's controversial,
We talked
right?
about it in our Wake Up Sheeple episode, where we're like, no, we have to be really careful with what the thing is, like what the movie is, what we're watching is. And I was like, this was not cool. This was like not cool on so many levels.
Yeah.
We're not, I mean, like...
Yeah. I feel like this is kind of like playing into that implicit bias kind of thing where this is a, you know, implicit bias. People have actually very open bias in some cases, you know, between the religious differences, especially India, Pakistan, the whole deal. And so I feel like they didn't want to overtly state it because that's controversial. It really is. And it actually plays into politics and it's a huge thing. So I think it's playing into that bias, but implicitly, basically, in such a way that you don't necessarily register it immediately that, okay, she was Muslim and so we didn't like her. She was the bad guy. And then she becomes Hindu. Okay, now we like her. She's good. She's great.
Hamza actually noticed it because in the beginning they show that mansion, whatever, and they're living, and they go to the her side of where it was uneducated, quote unquote. She was speaking Punjabi, and it was like a low class. Hamza was like, oh, so Muslims live in a poor place, and the Hindu, and I was like, what? I seriously did not even pay attention because that's something that I already expected because it's in my language, right?
Yeah.
It's in my language. I understand it. It's something that I grew up with. So you don't want to make that connection. But it was there this whole time.
Yo, what was that other movie? What was that other movie? It was literally about Muslim and Hindu, and I never watched it. I'm wondering if you did.
I don't remember it. I don't remember where that movie was, honestly.
I could almost swear they didn't end up to get visa.
She converted to Hinduism too at the end.
All I saw was this one song at one point where they've grown up and they're like in some court or something and they're reliving all their past. And it didn't, and then they like walk past each other dramatically or something. It just seemed like they got together. I just remember.
Look, we're not really fluent in Indian movies. All right, I just want to say it. No, but I remember towards the end of the movie, and I was like, I cannot believe this because she did. Like, if that's what I remember. I may be wrong. Converted. But I just remember that. What? Why? And I don't know the story. I know in that one religion did play a huge role. Like Muslim. Yeah.
That I heard that was the whole point of the movie, you know. But like in other movies, so that's what I mean. Like I'm curious to see how they actually played with that subject in that movie, which is supposed to be about that subject, versus other movies where they're just playing on the implicit things, which, like you said, we talked about it. You know, this is how they kind of enforce a particular thing about a particular culture, a particular type of people. This is how media affects the general population's view of them. So in this particular one, this is a very negative view of Muslims, in the beginning at least. You know, they're living in a poor area, they don't speak our kind of language, they're uneducated, and then they're not accepted, they're not really one of us, and then it's like at the end they will convert, or like basically somehow whatever, everything is fine as long as they forget that Muslim part of themselves.
Yeah. And I was like, seriously, she was so and I was so sad for her, and her father had died, and we were like, the father will not be happy with what has happened. Like, you just totally left the religion completely. I mean, so that was, to me, that was really, really shocking because it was not, they didn't even have to do that. That was not even, and that happens a lot. You don't even have to mention.
Yo, there's so many, hold on though. You know what's interesting though is that there's so many random songs, so many random situations and characters that randomly they're like, salam, or like they just say Eid Mubarak, like, or ye Rab ka karam hai, or like some basically like dramatic things, like, but they're Muslim, clearly Islamic kind of phrases that aren't
Yeah, because
Hindu.
Islam,
or like part of the Hindi religion.
no, Islam has been
I just had a
yeah,
moment.
Islam has been part of that subcontinent for a very long time. Hindu and Islam were
Yeah.
coexisting. Let's
Both.
not talk about what happened after the colonization of 200 years. Like, it was insanity, right? It was a lot happened, and then after that, the separation really took place. So, I mean, I'm not gonna pretend that and say, oh yeah, inherently they hate each other, because they didn't. They were living together, and it was after all that stuff happened, where famine, where diseases and all that stuff took place. And you know that, when you have things like this happen, it just pulls people. And there were a lot of stuff that was going on in that time period, and I blame the colonizers for that 100% of everything that went down. And there was a lot of bloodshed.
I'm sure.
And now we have additional
That-
things against the Muslims in the country, where Muslims are being persecuted. I mean, that's just a reality in India right now.
Yeah.
And so, like, you see all of those things, and I'm like, they don't happen in 1 year. We have movies like these happening 25 years ago, where Muslims were being portrayed in a certain way. And we as consumers, we were watching it, not a problem. Muslims everywhere know about this movie. Okay, that's wrong. They say Muslims know about this movie.
That correction.
And so it's like we don't even notice it, and it was there. And to think
Yeah.
that the entire culture soaked in, and that's only one movie that I've seen recently. I don't know how many other movies had these things like this, and you just grew up with that, and it impacts you.
Yo. Okay, so I'm used to like movies and things, or not movies, I guess songs. They grew up near in a movie theater where they would be blasting the song. So in her youth, like, she would hear them and she would remember a song,
Yeah.
and she enjoys them. That's her thing. So every once in a while we would go down the lane, the
Yeah.
nostalgia lane, and she'd be like, oh, play that song, play that song, play that song. So I would be looking at those songs and like, Ma, what did they just say? I would be like, Ma, you heard this? Really? And then every time, once in a while I'd be like,
I never paid attention.
this is literally like, that's, oh bro, there are so many songs. I'm like, Ma, literally, that's the stuff that people say, oh, people shouldn't be wearing that, oh, that's not correct. I'm like, this is 50 what? Like 56? Like 65? Like in the 50s, 60s, they be wearing some stuff where I'm like, I don't see why people have issues with that today. Your culture literally did that 50 years ago. Why are we talking about it now? Because it came up, just a couple years ago they were talking about, oh, dramas are taking their dupattas
The
off.
song
I'm like,
is literally
your
like
movies took them off.
it's really cool, because in this movie there was a scene that happened with Amitabh Bachchan, who's the father, and he's looking at his father's portrait, his dad portrait, and he's like, I've never done anything to disappoint him. I've always upheld my values. And they're talking about that, and I was like, dude, didn't you just, in your real life, his character, like, he was unfaithful, right? Like, that was his character, his reality. And then the character he's playing is this morally upstanding person who's never done anything to hurt or embarrass or whatever anyone. And I was like, what is that? Like, not even the people playing this are living the life that you're portraying.
I mean, I gotta disagree with that. Actors obviously are.
No,
separate
you're
from their
right. But I just think that
characters.
the image that they were portraying, and him saying that, it just was like, kind of like, because there's a lot of that in our culture, at least. Like, there is this idea of what families should be, what society should be, what government. In this movie, the idea was there. Families together. We never back each other. Parents are everything. Blah, 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 blah. But, like, even that was not true. Like, the idea was portrayed in the movie, but in reality of the culture, it isn't there. And then people use that movie, the biases, everything they get from the media, and they expect something in their life when it's not even true. Like, how many times?
I don't know. I feel like what you're saying is that's part of the society. Like, I don't see what you're saying. Reiterate that.
Well, what I'm trying to say is that. Okay, let's talk about Pakistani culture. We see Pakistani dramas, right? Pakistani dramas, we see them a lot. And there is a lot that goes on. There are expectations that are laid out, especially in the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law situation, right? The expectations are always the same. The expectations are always the same, because the dramas are always talking about those things. And how many times we've seen those expectations be carried out in real life. where people say the dialogue and you're like, what the heck? Like, why are you, even though you know that's a drama, but you still like, oh, did you see how they acted? This is how it should be. And you're like,
but the whole point of the drama is like to show you where that character going to end up, and it's not going to be in a good place. So why are you using that in this context? But like
that's what I was trying to say, that you have this idea that's being portrayed. Oh, great family together, never done anything to affect each other, but that's not even the reality. It happens. So don't be upset when it happens, you know. But if it does happen, then the whole dramatic, oh my God, you have disappointed me. You have acted like you're not my blood. You no longer belong to this family. And it's like, dude, you created this fake expectation that didn't exist. Because in your real life, I mean, his character, right? But like, come on. You create this fake expectation that doesn't exist. And then someone was unable to fulfill it. And then you're like, oh my God, I have failed. You are a disappointment. I cannot believe this happened. You're not part of this. Like, what kind of a stupidity is that, really?
So, I really think you're talking about what movies are, though. You know, like their whole point, or like, hold on, not movies, but like dramas, social media. Oh, not social media. This is what media is, though. Like, if you look at plays and stuff, they will show you the extreme good and they will show you the extreme bad, and then they will play that and see where it ends up, so that the audience and the viewers can have some sort of emotion, think about it, and hopefully learn some lessons. So I feel like what you're saying is kind of really biased because of the actors that are playing it, their lives. But also, I mean, that's the point of media. They are supposed to show, which can be argued, you know, like whether that's good or bad. But that's what they do. They show the existing structure of society. They show the existing expectations, and then they show, this is what happens.
Yeah.
And then this is one reaction to it.
No, that's why I was pointing that out. I'm not talking about the specific movie, the specific character, but it just made me realize the hypocrisy that exists in that culture, in our culture, where we expect something because we see it on the screen, and we just want it to be real so bad, you know. And it's like, but it's not even real.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying
we
to.
We shouldn't be taking it from the media. Like we should be using our brains a little bit and just being like, wait, I mean, come on.
What you mentioned though about the Pakistani dramas, and I agree with that. You know, they show this superbly evil character who has this phase of seemingly success, right, in their evil schemes, and in the end they somehow end up like, I don't know what happens to them. They just end up horrible. And I mean, it's like, how many? I honestly, people might disagree with this, and you might disagree with this, but really I feel like it is like a training manual. I honestly feel it ends up being a training manual for people. Oh yeah, this is what I can do.
I've heard this actually, not only from you, like from morning shows and stuff. They love talking about things. And they would say, yeah, they do actually sometimes. So I'm not going to say they always have the best things to say, but they have said this, like, what is the point of showing these on TV? Because people are learning lessons that they shouldn't be learning. Like, they forget how that character ends up. They just get so caught up in the process and thinking, like, that's what we should do. But then the flip side to it, the argument is always, there's always someone, you know, there in the morning show saying, no, wait, but that's the whole point. To see this ideal crumble, and then the reaction to that. Some people get caught up in the ideal, that's their fault.
No, but I think honestly though, it just drags on, and you might miss an episode or two, and I don't know, the final episode, you have your finals, or you have a job or a family event, and you don't see the downfall happen. I just, you know, I mean, a movie is like, all right, Indian movie 3-4 hours, fine. American movie 1 hour, 2 hours, good. And then you see everything happen in one phase. But like with this, it's like, oh my God, like, oh yeah, you can be evil this way and this way and this way and this way. It's like, oh yeah, this is great.
Pour salt in her food and say it was her.
Yo, and in the end, sometimes even people sympathize with the bad guys. Like, okay, so Wakanda forever, you know? Yes. For that one, you know, we had that character, right? The bad guy, the Killmonger. He was the bad guy. But even then, he was a very complicated bad guy. Yeah, the complicated bad guy. Yeah. And, you know, so there was this argumentation of whether, was he truly bad? Or was he like a victim? Or was he whatever? So
No,
Yeah,
he was
but
bad.
there was an argument that he played, and there was a valid argument, right? Because he was, and that's what T'Challa was saying.
A victim of society, sure, but like what you did at
Exactly.
the end of the day, kill
Yeah.
people, so like you're
Yeah.
bad. Sorry.
Exactly. And overthrowing.
Your
And,
reaction to what Earth gave to you, or like fate or God, whatever you want to believe. This is the hand that you were dealt,
yeah.
and you decided to kill people with it. So, all right.
Basically.
I mean, that's what.
And it was really interesting that
That's
they
kind of what
mentioned
you
it was,
did.
the CIA guy in there. He mentioned that he was like, oh yeah, this is what we taught him to do. We taught him to go to the governments and topple them, create problems within, so that it creates this unity and you destroy them from within. And I was like, oh my God, boy, this like everyone knows the truth, but everyone
Don't
allows
own
it.
it proudly. I'm like, don't own it.
No, he
proudly.
didn't. He didn't
Like,
own it probably. He was like, yeah, that's what he does because that's what he was doing,
we taught him.
Yeah, that's what it was. It's like we trained him to do exactly this, and that's what he's doing. It was kind of a thing. So it was really cool that they pointed at all those things.
It was such a great movie.
Yeah.
I loved it for that. And that's actually one of the things that I loved about the movie, was because he was complicated. He wasn't
Yeah.
evil. Like he wasn't
He was like a broken. It was a broken
he's-
person. Yeah.
Yeah, like he was a human at the end of the day. He wasn't like shaitan, He was
Yeah,
like,
Pakistani
okay,
dramas
he's a
we
human, he's
have
making
in
some
Pakistani
mistakes.
dramas we have shaitani characters. I mean, they just like completely go all off the charts. Oh, it was really cool. So
They
recently
do.
I saw a movie. It was a Korean movie, a zombie movie. It's called #Alive. Really cool concept. And okay, the thing about what I really like about Korean movies and dramas is that even most of the time, not all the time, the evil character is redeemable. Like there's not like a movie or a drama where it's like I'm comparing it to Pakistani dramas where I feel like their evilness is so much that even in the end sometimes they don't realize it. You just see their downfall. But in the Korean movies and dramas, sometimes it's like the evil character, they do exist, but there's like a reason for it, and they explain that. And so this movie was it was a zombie movie, but I was like, I've never seen a zombie movie that has actually been like hopeful. It was like a hopeful zombie movie. It was pretty cool. Yeah.
Okay, go Korea. Yeah, I mean, just a caveat. We've been out of the drama game for a bit.
Yeah.
I've been in there longer
Which
than
one,
you.
the-
Like I've been out for the
We're talking
last
about
3
Pakistani
years,
dramas?
but you've been out for.
Yeah, I've been out for
You've been out for a long
yeah,
time.
basically I think when I got married and I was like no longer had that
So like 10 years.
8 years.
So
Yeah. But that's what I remember.
rounding.
That's just what I
So-
remember. I haven't watched any of the recent ones. No.
that's what I was gonna say. I feel like some of the dramas that I saw after you, they did actually. There was a drama where my parents and I, we literally called that character like a psycho character. He was legit. He was psychotic. Like literally, he had cameras up and he went to that extent. It was wild. And like his family left him and everything, and she's the one who decided to stay because emotional manipulation, Stockholm syndrome, maybe. It was great. It was a fun drama. But anyways, what I'm trying to say is that I feel like they do show some dramas. They do show, like the reasoning for it was because she too was treated this way, and that's all the life that she
Right.
knows or something. So I really do think that the drama show the existing culture, existing society, yes, but that's what it is that they are products of other people's
Would you compare
anger, and then they create other people.
Would you compare the
like them,
evil
just like them.
characters in Pakistani dramas compared with the Korean evil characters? What is their evilness scale? I feel like
I've never seen no Korean evil actor though. Like
that's what I was trying to
character. Tell
say.
me
That's
one.
exactly what the bad guy who plays a bad guy, right? They do a lot of
Oh.
things, but even sometimes
Oh come on, there's some aunties in
Yeah.
there, man. Like the mother-in-law.
no,
Come
sometimes they
on.
do, but
the
like
same kind of stuff.
but like there's always sometimes from what I've seen so far, they show like a little moment where there's like a moment of regret, even if they're doing something. Yeah, but I don't
Obviously.
see that in Pakistani dramas from what I remember. I did not see.
So much you out. You
What?
out. They do show that. They do show that because they are. That's what I'm saying. There is like usually there's like a point where something happens.
Yeah, point something
and
happens.
The son is like,
but I feel
Mom, and then the parents are like, oh, we
exactly.
don't do. There is
No,
that
but you see,
moment.
you're talking about one moment here that happens after a period of stupidity. In the Korean dramas, sometimes the period is
As they're
the
doing
stupidity is
it,
happening, they're like, sometimes they
recognizing.
would do something and it's like, and you see that little recognition in their face, but they persist in their stupidity, but they recognize, like, oh yeah, that humanity, they show that in the character. And I think that's helpful. I think that's because sometimes when we see in reality in Pakistani families,
They're proudly declaring
yeah,
their evil act rather than kind
and
of
then they
being like
dismiss. And sometimes
defensive
it's like a
about
person
it.
would be faulty in a family, like they have issues, but then they completely like, oh no, evil, completely wrong, because the redeeming quality doesn't
Yeah.
exist because that's not what they see.
So, I mean, I haven't seen, I just don't remember. I think you're right, though. I can see that being correct. There are more redeeming qualities in evil characters in K-dramas versus evil characters in Paki dramas. It is definitely true there's a moment or like a major event at which point the evil character in Baki drama is like, oh my god, oh, I didn't do it right. Or there's a major downfall of the character so that the audience is clearly able to make the connection. Okay, that's what, I mean, obviously that's why it happened.
Yeah.
I don't know about K-dramas, man. I don't know. They're just on a whole nother level because the ones that
Yeah,
we
you
watch
can't
are
compare.
like romance and like fluffy. There was that one. Oh, remember you watched that drama? I couldn't handle it. You watched that one
Which one?
drama. They were step siblings or something, and
Oh, the
it was one of
yeah,
the
they were not
autumn,
step siblings.
fall,
Yeah,
summer,
no,
winter
they
one.
were like not even adopted. They just basically took the girl in and they raised her together with the guy.
And then so I feel like there was something like there in that
There,
one, like an evil character or like something. I don't know. I remember there's something
I
being
don't
something
remember.
there. Maybe
I just know
I'm
that
mixing it with
the
another movie like from the same one though.
no, I just know in that one that the culture, the culture was basically a little bit the bad guy. That's what I remember in that one because they had these expectations and they couldn't be together because of that, and it wasn't even valid. That's what I remember from that drama. But anyway, so this was my discussion from the movie, and towards the end, going back to the Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gham movie, the main character. So they're meeting. The son and the father meets after a long time, and the father is crying. He's remorseful, right? Like
Yeah.
he
I
starts
have
crying it,
lost
and the Shah Rukh Khan
time.
is like, "Oh my God, no, please don't cry." And they have this whole scene,
Hmm.
and this guy is like, "Who told you? Who told you to leave? And who told you never to come back?" And I was like, "What? You literally told him to do that. You literally said you're not part of this family." And he asked you, "Oh, so I'm not, and then he didn't answer. And then he leaves. He's like, "Well, why didn't you come back and try again?" I'm like, "You just gaslighting this guy? Like, what's going
Yeah,
on?"
yeah, for real, for real. Like own your
And he was
mistake.
like,
You kicked
"Oh,
him out.
yeah," but he
Don't
was like,
play this
but
game.
that's what we do. That's what we do. We get upset and whatever, and we're older and we do this, and you're supposed to come back. And I mean, he realized he was wrong, but some of the wordings that was like, man, y'all just really know how to emotionally manipulate people. Like that's
Then
just be like, I was wrong, man. I shouldn't have said that to you. I abused my wife in that way because I separated her from her son, and my son was separated from his brother, and it was all because of my ego and pride. And it's like, just say that instead of saying, why didn't you? Why did you leave? Like, wow. Did we forget what
that's
you said?
that is not
Yeah.
cool, man.
But that's like the reality of the emotional responses that we have in our
Have you hold on?
communities.
Have you seen again Devdas anytime recently?
No.
I wonder what you find in there. No,
I mean, just the fact that he was in love with the prostitute, or the prostitute was, he
I mean,
was
come
with
on,
the
that's
prostitute, and the
clear. That's
prostitute was
so
in love with
clear.
him. Yeah,
That's
I
an
don't know.
obvious like yeah.
And
But
her
like
thing where the issue with, okay, so we're about to delve into the problems I have with our culture, and I'm not sure if we want to go that way because I have issues with our culture.
hey, the good and bad to every culture. Good and
Yeah,
bad.
and the bad that are in our culture are what I'm deeply familiar with because it's my culture, and I don't like it.
Okay, let's go ahead. Well, with Devdas, let's go.
Do we have time for this? Because we normally do our episodes for 40 minutes. Because, I mean, we can
True.
do like an hour above. But one of the things is
True.
that I don't feel that there is a healthy balance between your devotion, dedication to your family versus your dedication to yourself, or in our case, to our faith. Like, there's not a healthy balance. So in her case,
You're
it
either
was,
like one way or the other way. There's like no in between.
yeah, I mean,
10
generally
out of 10.
speaking, right?
No, yeah. Like the portrayal in drama is about this, and then the way that we talk about things. Yeah. I
Yeah.
agree.
Like, recently, the issue has been happening about the rape that happened, right? One of the rape accounts that happened, really big deal. And there's people say different things about it. But this is not only about the situation. It is about every negative situation that happens in Pakistan, at least. They always say it's the government's fault. It's like, okay, my water is leaking in my home. Call Imran Khan, he need to fix it. It's like, what are you talking about?
No, that was you. Yeah.
Yeah, and in this case too, it's like, oh, the issue, blah blah blah, and I'm like, look, it was not the government, it was not the
Oh,
judge.
no, it wasn't. You're right. The woman should have covered herself. Why
Okay,
was she out alone?
we're not even talking about that. We're talking about people who recognize that, and then they're like, oh no, it's the government's fault. And then we need to go back to Islam. I'm like, okay, what does it really mean for you to go back to Islam? What does it really mean?
Exactly. That's the next step that's always missing. That's what I mean. Like, okay, she should have been out. She should have covered herself. Like, whatever. What about you, though? Or, like, it's the government's fault. What do you want them to do about it? What you need to do is smack your men around. Be like, you need to understand about basic human decency and respect, what that's about.
And you
The
know,
woman can be doing whatever the heck she wants. You're doing whatever the heck you want. You need to control yourself.
no, I mean, I cannot even guess it based on our
Women
culture.
have been so loud about this. By the way, they've been having
Yeah.
an issue that like it ain't stop. Don't even play this game.
Yeah.
Don't even play this game.
That's why it is really big, because it has opened up a lot of dialogue, and people are like really
Yeah.
having. But the thing that I notice is here, we just finished, we just went through the anniversary of 9/11 here, and one of the things that happened is that when you have a tragedy that happens that shakes people, you have really strong extremist responses, right?
Oh, yeah.
So you have people attacking the Muslims, or people who look like Muslims in this case, at 9/11, after 9/11 happened, and that has been continuing up until now. And so what I fear in that response is that some of it is really harsh. Some of it is like really extreme. It's like, oh, we should be
Absolutely.
hanging everyone. We should be hanging even if you disagree with the
Yeah.
hanging. We should be doing that. And I'm like, hang on, though. I know you're
Don't be
upset.
throwing that word around.
Don't
You're talking about going back to
transgress.
Islam, and now
Yeah.
you're going to be talking about
Exactly.
hanging. I was like
Because-
really upset when I saw that.
Yeah, the Islam is not, right? It's like about don't transgress the limits Allah has placed on you. That is what it's
Exactly.
going back to Islam is. But people want to be
Exactly.
like, they just want to take whatever they want, and they don't want to put
Exactly.
in. And that's the problem with that.
They're just so passionate, and then just basic logic is out of the equation sometimes. I'm like, come on, y'all. I get it. It was terrible. It was really bad, etc., etc. But let's think about it for a second. What would be a good response? Should I just yell and scream and just make a scene? Or should I actually hold people accountable? Where is that guy? What is the government doing? Hold them accountable, right?
Yeah.
And then next step, what are you doing?
But let me tell
Did
you,
you
though,
did you situate? Because there was some, I saw a comment. They're like, oh, I sat my girl down, and or my dad sat me down and said,
don't leave the
oh,
house.
make sure, yeah, you're not leaving the house alone again. I want you to be
Like,
safe.
what?
But like, how many have sat their sons down, been like, you do this, and I'm gonna be
Yeah.
the first one to turn you in. I'm gonna be the first one to smack you around.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be the first one to make sure you
Look,
regret your
I don't-
decision.
look,
Like how many have done that to their sons, but there have been plenty that done this to their daughters. No, it's the government. No, I'm so upset. Hang them all.
I'm like, it was not the judge who attacked
Stupid.
this woman in this case. It was someone
Yeah.
in the community who did that, you know. And you can say whatever you want, but in the end, you look, I don't know the reality. I've only been to Pakistan once since we moved, and that was like 10 years ago or 11 years ago. And I remember the people in our family, the women in our family, myself included, I was a little bit rebellious. I didn't want to, because I'm like, why? Like some people in our family were like, we only wear the abaya when we go outside, or the hijab when we go outside to the marketplace, and otherwise they don't wear it normally. It's because you get stared at. And even then you get stared at. Like, I remember I was
Yeah,
walking,
there was no point to the
there was this old dude, beard going like long, and he just looked at me, and I was like, what?
What do you see
And it
that
was
you're
constant.
staring
It was
like
constant
this? Yeah.
in the marketplace. It was to the point where something happened, and I remember this dude just bumped into my shoulder, and I was like, "What the?" And no apologies or anything, right? And over here, I was like, "You just look like, what the heck is wrong with you?" And my sister was like,
Shove him back.
Don't do that, Samia. Don't do that. Don't do that." And I was like, "So engaging, don't do that. Don't engage." And I'm like, well,
yeah, because then it's gonna be
right. So you're not talking about, this was not a government official. This was not Imran Khan's, I don't know, family member in this case. This is
By the way, this, interestingly enough, this is a universal issue. Like catcalling and stuff.
It is a universal issue, and people have been talking about it, but for some reason, we're just talking about...
It ain't about government. This is about genders right now. That's what it's about. Ain't no one gonna call it that, but it is.
Yeah.
It is.
And but the
because
response...
it's universal for that reason.
But the response that always is that, oh, we need to get back to our faith, which is true. We do need to get back to our faith. But I feel that getting back to our faith is, they need to wear the hijab. Women need to be wearing the hijab. That's going back to the faith. That's not, like, no. It's not about going back to the faith. No, you need to
learn basic human decency and respect.
No, just learn about, going back to the faith means a lot. It's a whole character, like it really is uncomfortable, right? It's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's how going back
to
the faith is.
You have to really re-examine who you are, and like, because going back to the faith is like trying to embody, like striving to become like the Sahaba, like the prophets, like that's what going back to the faith is. Can you imagine the prophet? Can you even imagine the Sahaba saying, hang everyone who does this? And hang anyone who disagrees.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe Umar because he's legit. But not
even him, because he was about justice.
Depending on the situation, justice. Not like this.
He was strict with justice, not with vengeance. With justice. Yeah.
That's what I mean. Like, he would have done it if it was like a particular situation. I can imagine him
I don't know him well enough. I don't know about his biography well enough to say that, but I know that he was really firm with justice, and he didn't like when things were out of order like that. And
exactly.
I mean, we agree. Yeah.
But that's the thing, is like, and then to be saying, oh no, it's the government's fault, like that, and then to be sitting their daughters down and talking like this to them.
When you washing your hands from your responsibility. Oh, it's out of our control. It's their fault. It's like,
exactly.
I
That's
remember
what I mean.
A lecture I heard from Sheikh Hamza Yusuf a long time ago, and it has always stuck with me. And one of the things he talked about is that what we do in our private lives, like, there is a spiritual world, the unseen world, or what people may call a metaphysical world, like unseen world, and we believe in that. We believe in the unseen. That there's an interaction between the unseen world and the seen world all the time. They're interacting. And what you do in your privacy of your home, in your four walls, four rooms, whatever you want to say, that is affecting everyone through the unseen world. So you may be doing an injustice in your own home, but know that a couple of years from now, the things that happen are directly attached to your specific injustice or your specific transgression that you're doing. And I am like, there's so many things happening in this world right now. Like right now in the West Coast, there's a fire. Like literally, I don't even know how many people are affected by this. Like it's like a whole region is affected by that. And why did it happen?
It's orange outside.
Because someone wanted to show it was a gender reveal party, right? And it's like, wait.
Even though there are so many people, like so everyone just emphasizes, don't do fire. This is no fire season. We're not playing with fire. Don't do it. Don't mess with it. There's so many things about it. And yet people are just like, nah, but it's okay. It's just a reveal party. It's not going to be serious.
Yeah, but you look back a little bit deeper than that, because that's like causing the symptom. The symptom is, the party happened and they should do that. But the real cause is consumerism, is capitalism, is self. What is that word?
That's
right?
what I mean.
Exactly.
That's what I mean. It's like, it's not a big deal. I'm just gonna do it. It's a small one. I'm somehow unique and a beautiful flower. I can never make a mistake.
So that's it. Like, we need to take our own responsibility for the things that are going on. We are responsible some way, and that change needs to happen. And looking at, kind of wrapping a little bit of our conversation together, talk about the movies and stuff like that. It's like, as much as we want our culture, society, etc., to be a certain way, The reality is that it's not, and you have to deal with the reality rather than like try to be forcing this unrealistic expectations on people. Just stop for a minute and be like, hang on, how am I responsible for this?
Like, for once, look in the mirror. Like, literally, seriously look in the mirror. Stop saying it's the government. Could I have done something?
Yeah.
Even though it's about this huge issue, I wasn't even in that country. It's time for you to sit down, look in the mirror, and be like, could I have done something? Or can I do something now to make sure this never happens again to anyone around me?
And I can guarantee it.
Not women.
Yeah. I can guarantee
men,
it that the men
know?
in this case, that they have seen these things, not necessarily, molestation or rape actions, but they've seen catcalling, they've seen women being uncomfortable in a space, and they just didn't say anything about it, right?
Change needs to come from within. Men are like, oh yeah, they're used to it. Oh yeah, everyone does it, but they don't mean it. You know,
one of the big
call
mistakes,
them out. Be like,
one
bro.
of the big mistakes is to say, oh yeah, the women expect that because they work here, etc., etc. It's okay, they're used to it. A woman is never used to it. She's never okay with it. All right, she's never okay with it.
No, but what I mean with men, don't call out other men because every man does it, and it's every man is used to it. That's what I mean. Like, everyone is used to it because everyone does that. But if someone goes a little too much, maybe then a man can speak out. But if you're just catcalling, like everyone, if you're staring, everyone does it. It's not my place to call this man out. No, it is your place. You're a man. Call it out. You see it happening amongst your people. Call it out.
Yeah, be like, you know what? I don't think we should do that. I don't think that's the right thing
to do. Hey, bro, where you looking?
Yeah, I don't...
Hey, bro, where are you looking?
Yeah. Let's
Why
focus
are you looking?
Here instead.
Hey, bro, what? Don't do that.
There's so many things you can do about it. To just speak up and be like... And we're talking about this situation.
Or you know what? Even like jokingly be like, bro, you know what you did was harassment, right? I mean, I'm just saying, just letting you know in case you weren't aware, that was totally out of line. Low key.
Exactly.
It's up to them whether they listen or not. At least tell the dude.
I agree.
You goofed.
Well, inshallah.
Anyways, that was my little moment.
Yeah, so we're going to be looking forward to your comment, Caffeine, here on the YouTube channel. And for those on the podcast, we never mentioned it. We didn't really clarify that, but we're actually going to be having a YouTube version of our podcast as well. So what you hear is you can actually watch us discuss it, and my hands are all over the place when I talk, so you can see how passionate I was about the topic today. Leave us a comment on the Instagram or on YouTube, and we'll pick yours to do our Common Caffeine moment in our next episode, inshallah.
All right. Well, thank you guys for spending time with us, and let us know what you agree with, disagree with, and what other crazy movies have y'all watched. Should we waste our time with any good movie that you would recommend? Like, for real though, this one that wasn't that bad. And educate me if y'all have seen like a truly evil Korean character.
Yeah, I'm sure they exist here.
Legitimately,
I
want to know.
If you don't want to comment in public, we have a Say Salam section. So if you just go to the description box, you can click Say Salams and send us a private message, and we can read that and interact that way as well, inshallah. All right. Thank you very much for watching and joining us on this podcast.
Assalamu alaikum.